All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, the 4th of March. First video of the month. I was away on a couple days. I called it a mini vacation. I was down in the Bahamas for a couple days, which is actually a really quick flight going from Newark Airport in New Jersey or JFK down to Bahamas. It was like 2.5 hours. So first time I've been down there. And really nice, relaxing. They had Wi-Fi all over the place. If you're ever looking for a place to go where you can kind of trade, they have Wi-Fi all over the complex, which is really nice. So anyway, let me get to. It was nice. I think really nice to spend 3 or 4 days there if you haven't done it before. Weather was perfect, and one of those places if you just want to get away and relax for a couple days. I would say in the realm of doing things, they were a little bit short on that, but that's fine. We just wanted to get away for a couple days, and we went away with another couple. It was great. So let's go over today's price action. Could talk definitely a couple minutes about that. A little bit different today. Took on a different tone. We'll talk about today's option activity. We'll talk about the new index that I created that is application, enterprise, and infrastructure software, which was right in the spotlight today with Salesforce reporting after the close. So Salesforce down a little bit. Keep in mind, this is exactly what I said in the trading room today was that it tends to sell off after results. Sometimes they give a little bit of they guide a little bit lower. And then Mark Benioff goes on Mad Money with Jim Cramer and kind of talks about all the things that they're doing. So this has had a similar pattern to it. Salesforce. It seems like every quarter they beat their numbers, but they reduce the guidance down a little bit lower, and then they just to kind of make that bar easier to jump over. I think these guys have a knack for doing that, and then they go on, and Benioff will be on Kramer tonight, and we'll see if that gives the stock a boost. I did trade a small trade for this one, and I put this out on the private Twitter feed, saying that this has a history of doing this after hours. Keep in mind the stock was down 3.7%, so maybe it would have been down more if it was just a flat day. So let's talk about this. We had a little bit of a reversal day today, and I'll give you my 2 cents behind it. I always have my own opinions for that, but the Qs ended up actually in green this morning. They were up about 60 basis points. That was your leader in the beginning of the day. And you could see how that fell apart right after the open. I'll tell you, we've been seeing these, and I mentioned it in the room again, is that whenever we're up like that, now today was a little bit different. We sold off more, but the market just doesn't like it. It entices sellers to come in whenever we open when futures are bid up like this, up 60 basis points. So this is not anything new. And if you're not realizing this pattern, I think you want to be because you don't want to be. I think you really don't want to be buying on the open because again my thing has what we talked about last week too was you get 2 or 3 green bars on the open, and then sellers come in, and then usually around 11 o'clock, the dust settles, and we grind higher. So this was a bit more, here for example was Friday. We did the same thing. It's just not as dramatic as this was. Thursday, I think we did the same thing there too. Couple bars. That one actually we ended maybe this is Thursday. So it does seem like the market is a little bit out of steam when you're doing that. So a couple of things. The way that you can think about trading this is, first of all, don't take positions right in the first 15 minutes because they get squashed. But wait until you get a little bit of volatility, or wait until we get one of those days where we open up and the market is lower. That happened one day last week, and it was a nice buying opportunity. I think that was Wednesday last week. So again, videos for information purposes only. I'm not giving out any advice or anything like that, but just kind of going over what we're seeing. And if you go to the weekly charts, I think there's pretty good reason for this, why we've kind of stalled. First of all, we did get overbought. The SPY got overbought. IWM really got overbought. But if you look at the weekly chart, right to my levels of 176.16 in the Qs, And if you look at SPY, it's the same thing. We're right into that resistance, top of value. So I said in the weekend newsletter, I said, we just kind of have to wait and see. Either one of three things is going to happen. A, we're going to get above this level that I talked about in the newsletter, which is here, 280, right? We talked about this, 280.42. Right, couple possibilities. SPY could consolidate for a couple weeks. It could turn lower, or it could get through the 280.42, and we really don't know what it's going to do yet. So maybe wait until the week is over and kind of just tread a little bit more careful. And that's my view. That's my personal view. Because listen, we've gone all the way through here. Maybe if we kind of push back, I wouldn't be surprised if we pull back a little bit. And I've been saying that for a couple weeks now, but just wouldn't surprise me. And I think you just want to have that cash available, have that watch list that you really like. And then, of course, you could do as much day trading as you like. All right, so that's SPY's Qs. Let me talk about the FANG stocks, and then I'll talk about the software play. So Amazon was a play that we put on last week. This is the weekly chart. I'm looking for a move to really 1770. I think would be interesting. Nice to start on the weekly chart first. On the daily chart, it's moving in the right direction. It did not close on the highs, but still up 24 bucks. So that's now a couple days of a move up here. And, I'm really looking for the first thing is maybe to get back to the 200-day moving average for, I call the FANGs the underperformers right now in the market. But, Facebook, I've talked about Facebook. We actually went over Facebook pre-market, but Facebook is just really not for me. Because I think the setup was pretty good. It closed on the highs. Maybe that's why it'll push higher, because I just think it's too headline driven. There's too many fines that Facebook could be open to. So that's why I'm not playing it. But I know a lot of traders in the room are trading it. And hey, it's a nice, if you kind of cover up the symbol, it's a pretty nice looking move back above the 200-day moving average. I'll talk about Netflix as well, because I see a lot of people talking about Netflix. Netflix gave a lot of good clues last week, and I don't really understand. I see a couple people saying, lock in profits on this thing. What profits? It does the same move. It's been doing the same move every day for almost a week and a half. If you're really looking at messing with this thing, it opens up on the highs of the day every day, and then it sells off. High of the day, sells off. High of the day on the open, sells off. High of the day on the open, sells off. Get the picture? High of the day on the open, sells off. High in the day. So why even mess with this thing? Unless you're going to be really cute with this thing and go long at the end of the day and close it right on the open, I see really no need to be in this thing. It's just not acting well. Google, on the other hand, is doing a little bit better. And actually did okay, but this also had the same type of feel to it. High of the day on the open, sold off, and then clawed its way back. So I know that Google to me is just a puzzle that I haven't really been able to figure out, and it just seems to move. It's sneaky, right? It will do nothing. It'll chop for like 5 days, and then it will get that one day where it does something. But hey, it's above the 200. Maybe it will actually, catch some momentum here, and I don't see why it wouldn't. It's just taken a long time. But we talked about playing Apple too in the trading room. Give it some time. Don't be so focused on these guys who talk about weeklies. Because first of all, they're all talking hypothetical. They're not really talking about real trades. But give yourself, I think anyway, give yourself some time because they're really tricky. Again, unless you're going to play the game where you're going to buy right before the close and then sell on the open, they're not giving you that really that many trending days. It's more range-bound days than anything else. But yeah, I'm shocked at how many people try to persuade people to think that they're really trading when they're not. And talk about these names. I see it a lot on Twitter, and it bothers me. So let's talk about the whole software move today. I think that this was a bit overdue. Remember, we saw a bunch of puts that went up last week, and perhaps they were a little bit too early. We saw puts in about 3 or 4 different of the software names. We saw it in Okta, OKTA, I think we did see some puts in Salesforce, and we saw puts in maybe one or two other names, like all within 2 days. So I think they were just off. Maybe they were correct. They just had the timing off. But this group has run so much, and I think you just have to be realistic. I was in team. So here's a realistic example, and this is a live trading, or this is a trade that I actually took, and it's on our private Twitter feed. But I went into team right into this 20-day moving average, and I took it off on Friday, right? I mean, that was what I was looking for, and it worked very well. Now, on the other hand, I kind of got caught in Vive. I went long Vive after earnings, and so it's got this ugly looking bar. It did close well off the lows, but I decided to get out of this a little bit lower than my cost basis, and just kind of see where this. So now it becomes, what do you do now, right? You have a dip in some of these things, and they all kind of look the same, right? So first of all, why did this happen? One of two reasons, right? I would say profit taking. Number two, keep in mind, not this week, not this Friday, but next Friday, you have quadruple witching, right? So what happens on quadruple witching? What's one of the ones that people don't talk about because they just don't know a lot about it is index rebalancing. Every index gets reweighted. The S&P, the NASDAQ, and I'm not saying reweighted like they bring in new members. What they do is they take all the existing constituents and they rebalance them. So what do? They sell the winners and they buy the losers, right? Because over the last 3 months, what has happened is the variable is price. So they only restrike the constituents in each index in December, in March, in June, and September, right? So only quarterly. Between the last time that they rebalanced which was in December, what changes is the price. So some names become a bigger weight in the indices. And what's done the best? The software names. So they're going to get sold. So what happens is they formally announce those index changes on Friday today on the close. But what do portfolio desks do at all banks? They trade ahead of it, right? They do the math. It's very easy math to figure out what names have to be sold and what names have to be bought. So they're doing that now. Portfolio desks begin to do that 2 weeks before the rebalance date. So that, I think, also had an impact. They're going to start selling the winners. Look at what Boeing did today. Do you think that this is a coincidence that Boeing was also down 1.8% while SPY was flat for the day, down 35 basis points? No, they're selling. This has to be sold because it's a winner right now. So you're going to see that for the next. Now today, like I said, they start to do it. They will announce it next week. Or excuse me, they announce it on the close of business on Friday. And then the actual date of this big index rebalance in the S&P, the NASDAQ, all of the sector indices, the equal weight indices, all of these get rebalanced. So that will happen on the 15th, right? So the exact event will be the 15th. But so you'll see that'll be the biggest volume day of the year, will be 315. No doubt for single names as well as the ETFs, it'll be the biggest volume day of the year. But all that trading, remember, everybody does their homework ahead of time. So there will be a lot of gaming. And again, that started today. So keep that in mind. You may be able to, these are one-time events. Well, it'll stretch over 2 weeks. But once that happens, that trade's over. So you may get a chance. So if you've been kind of trying to get into some of these names in software, these have been the market leaders, the leadership of the market. Give it a couple days, let it kind of wash its way through the selling pressure that you're going to see, and you may be able to kind of get some of these names into some support. So I've got my watch list ready. Just by coincidence, I did make the index. This was an index that I made. The Business Technology Index. This was something that I made back on 3/18 of 2018, so basically a year ago, and it has 49 companies in it. And what's happened since then? Remember, this is software names, cyber names, web domain names that I put into this index that has done exceptionally well. So what I did was I created another index. Because there's a lot of small names in here. So this index has 84 names. So let's see what it did today. and that's why I created a new index, because just strictly software, and I equally weighted the index, which is different than any other ETF that's out there. But you could see it's still, it made been making 52-week highs. But this is your market leadership. So we'll see how much it pulls back. So yeah, what fell the most? Okta, GWRE, AYX. Names that have been super overbought. I mentioned Team Ready, Data, Workday, Splunk down 5%. So this is good for this group to do. If you like this group, this is going to be one of my areas of concentration this year. But you got to let the overbought levels and kind of let them come to you a little bit. What else to kind of talk about today? Interesting. Let me talk about today's option activity. Sorry, I'm just sometimes I just say whatever's on my mind. IHF. This is the healthcare providers ETF. Really interesting. This is continuing to sell off. So names like UNH. Which saw a little bit of dip call buying last week. Same thing with, what is it? CNC is the other one. Centene, all these. So, just like today, we got a dip in the software names. Give it some time for this to wash through. I don't really want to catch a falling knife. Same thing if we go to the, let's go back, just talk about the indices just for 1 minute. But this kind of does look like a reversal bar for the day. Well, didn't close on the lows, but so just give it a little time just to figure out. And again, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we come in a little bit more, but let it do its thing, and I don't need to buy every single dip that happens. And we'll kind of just go from there. What else didn't perform very well today? Yeah, I mean, other big winners, cyber names. Some other healthcare areas that have been pretty hot. Biotech did not perform well today. Home builders were actually up today. Just kind of tells you people shifting around, doing some trades ahead of this big quarterly rebalance that we're going to have. So again, my opinion. I'll go over the option activity. The most notable trades, I thought. We've been seeing a little bit of Amazon. Calls that have been going up, very short dated stuff, so people riding, a little bit of momentum. This is not the stuff that we're seeing in Amazon. Trust me, I wish it was different, but it's just weekly stuff. It's just people seeing it go up and they're buying. Of course, it got an price upgrade today as well. So just be in mind that they're not going out a couple months. They're just going out for the weeklies and they're riding momentum. So not really any crazy positioning going on there. Apple was a little bit different. I don't know why I have Apple puts in here. It should probably be down there. But there was some Apple calls today. That's another name that we've had in the newsletter. I think is going to be a slow mover, but hopefully starting to move the right direction. I'm not going to go over the chart because the video is already 18 minutes. A couple other notable trades that we saw today. UPS has been a repeat buyer. Sorry, UPS, if I said that wrong. This was a really nice, interesting trade. So speaking of a name that's really had a big move, and this is also application software, but they went ahead and they bought the dip today. They also sold some puts, so they still looks like they very much like this name, and it is completely breaking out. Had earnings gapped up pretty nicely. TSS also saw some leaps. Qualcomm continues to see calls. Someone did bring this to my attention that it does go X, but we are seeing that one come up a few times now. I like the charts. I put on a trade last week in Qualcomm, and then right before the bell, maybe watch this name for tomorrow. Stitch Fix, SFIX. Saw some calls. I think they report this week. Oh, no, maybe that's next week. 311 they report. So they bought some April calls pretty aggressively. This was about a minute and a half before the close. Last name, I like this utility name, NRG. This has been pretty good, although it hasn't done much recently. It's been more of a grinder of a name. So, what do you do with this name? You could buy, they bought just a little bit of calls, like a $100,000 trade for March. If you're looking for like a quick pop, which I don't know if you're going to see that in this name because it's just a slow mover, I think either you just buy the stock. What is this thing? What's the dividend on this thing in NRG? Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Let's see, and then we'll end it here. Oh, it's not that big of a name. It's not yielding that much, so you don't have to worry about there with the options. All right, guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.